Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Benergy Builder Basics training. My name is Angela Schultz, and I'll be your trainer today. Before we get started, I would like to encourage you to participate in today's session. At the end of each section, we'll have a short Q&A, and then again at the end of training, you'll have another opportunity to ask additional questions. Please use the chat feature of WebEx to both ask and answer your questions. That's typically located at the top of your screen horizontally. Just select the chat icon, and I'll make sure all those questions get answered before the end of training. So having said that, let's get started. The objectives, or upon completion of this course, you'll be able to log into Benergy Central and understand the differences between a broker login versus site manager. So this training, the Benergy Builder Basics, is targeted to both brokers and site managers. In the beginning, there's a few differences, but toward the majority of the training and the end of training, it's really the same for both. So we'll talk about those differences in the beginning. Second is to identify and understand the contents of the resource section. Locate and understand the purpose of the library management, or sometimes it's referred to as creator library. Construct and customize a client portal within the control center. So this is where we're going to spend the bulk of training. And then once we go through those steps, those pieces of configuration that must be completed before a portal is launched, then we'll finish up with how do you launch the portal once it's ready to go. So that's kind of the agenda that we'll also follow. So I'm going to leave the PowerPoint now, and I'm going to go in here to a browser. Now, the URL for the control center is mybenergy.com. And this is the login screen. Now, the color on this login screen in the Benergy Control Center, you'll see in a minute, might be different than what you see, and it may be branded differently as well. So I'm going to first log in as a site manager. Let's talk about what we see. So a site manager would log in to Benergy Central, and this is their view. And there are two sections in the middle, Control Center and eTools. And both of these sections can also be accessed on this vertical menu bar here. In addition to that, on the vertical menu, there is a section called Resources. Now, there's several links, as you can see, but there are two that I want to point out to you. The first one being the EBIX Training Center. Right now, if you click on this, it will route you to our recorded session. Pretty soon that's going to change, and it's going to route you to our training site. Now, you should have received an email that officially launched or rolled out our new training site. If you did not, please reach out to someone in client services, whether it's your account manager or implementation specialist or even support, and let them know that you did not receive it. That's how we communicate with you. That's how we inform you of upcoming trainings. But the training site is and the URL for that is EBIX Benergy. Try to make it logical, so it's a little bit long, training.com. So ebixbenergytraining.com. And this one site will walk you through not only your training options, so attending a live session virtually or recorded session. So this link right here will take you to that same link that I just showed you. But it also has all these useful tools like user guides and quick references broken out by product. So it's the latest and greatest. You can share this with your colleagues. You can share them with your clients. And it's always accessible to you 24/7. So you can have the latest and greatest documentation. So I wanted to let you know that currently, even though that directs you or routes you to the recorded sessions, eventually it will route you to that training site. But you can still access that training site by that URL. The next option here is OE Works Program. Now, this rolled out last year, and if you click on it, these are for our clients that have upgraded to EBIX Benergy Enrollment Solution. It has a cute little video, but it also gives you different steps that you can do to prepare for open enrollment season. The training that's available, user guides, promotional tools that you can use to help inform employees and that kind of thing, and some post-enrollment steps. So it's a nice one-stop shop, the site, with pretty much all-inclusive, everything you need to have a successful open enrollment. All right, so this is Benergy Central. Now notice up in the upper right-hand corner there's a menu. The last link is Log Out. We do recommend that you select Log Out to immediately terminate that connection to the Internet. Now that we have seen what a site manager sees when they log in, let's log in as a broker. So again, colors, logos can be different. And you can see that there's a little bit more information here. So let's just talk about the differences. Brokers most certainly also have Control Center and eTools sections, but they also have Advisor Tools and Client Community. All four of these sections can also be accessed on this vertical menu bar. In addition to that, they have the same resources section, so they can access the recorded sessions as well as the OE Works program. In addition to that, far off to the right, vertically, there's a dashboard, and it just compares this particular brokerage firm's clients to our entire database. So it's just a nice little dashboard with that information. And some brokers may even see a workspace up at the top horizontally. So those are kind of the differences between the two. All right, let's go ahead and access the Control Center by selecting this little triangle here in this green circle, or by this option here. I'm going to select this. Takes you to the same place though. And this takes you to our Control Center menu. Now we're going to go in a couple minutes to the Communications Control Center in just a second. We will talk about the library. The news postings is in our booster training, so it's not covered today. And the rest of these control centers we're not covering as well either, because these are for our upgrades. So they're not covered in this training. So we're basically going to hit these first two options here. So we'll start with the library. Now, basically, this library, sometimes called Creator Library, sometimes Library Management, what this really does is it gives a library of documents, a library of resources that brokers maintain but can share with site managers. So these are all pertaining to benefits. So all these content areas are benefits related. And what brokers can do is just build this library to help them be more efficient in building portals and accessing benefit information and adding that to different organizations. But they also can grant site manager access for those particular organizations so they can utilize this information as well. So although brokers maintain it, they can make it available to everyone. So having said that, let's just pick a content area. Let's select legal summary, since most carriers provide a legal summary. And you can see here that there are two already out here, so it'll just create a kind of a table. And notice any existing legal summaries, they can most certainly be edited, deleted, and reassigned. And we'll talk more about that assignment capability here in a minute. But let's just walk the brokers quickly on how to add content in this library. Notice in this first paragraph, there is a link labeled Add. If selected, it kind of opens and displays another window. And the first thing it's requesting is the title. So let's just say legal summary, and we'll put today's date, which is May 9th. Cannot believe it's already in May. Now that you've added the title, now keep in mind that if a field has a character limitation, it's typically located below the field name. So for example, this particular title has 100 characters limit. But Benergy defines characters as any alpha character, any numeric character, any special characters, as well as spaces and punctuation. So just keep that in mind. Usually it's more than enough room. As you can see here, there's 100 characters, but I just wanted to point that out to you. Now that you've added the title, you have a decision to make, and you have three options. The first option is you can upload a document. So if you want the employees, not the employees, excuse me, the site managers or the brokers to be able to open up a document so they can add it to the portals for the employees to view, then you would just select Browse, find your document, and pull it through. If you want to paste information on here or free form the text, I'll just make something up here. Notice you have some capabilities, so you can most certainly make some edits if you need to, which I'll do now. And the last option is the web address. So you can add a URL here if you want to redirect the employees to a website. So these are your three options. Once you make the choice, just select the Save button, the bright orange button, the lower left, and it will save that piece of information and come to what we call the assignment page. And that's kind of what this is all about right here. If you need to make changes to that, you can most certainly do that. Kind of a shortcut. So brokers can grant access to the site managers, as we mentioned. So if this is selected, that means all the site managers that access the Control Center can have access to this information as well. The next step that you need to identify is the category, program, and/or plan type. Now you can select this checkbox to the left of all, and it simply just selects all the categories, all the programs, and all the plan types. Or you can pick and choose which one. And then the last piece of information is the carriers. By default, all will be selected, but you most certainly can select a specific carrier if you need to. Once you make your choice, just select Save, and it adds it to the table. So this is the one that we're working with or just added today. And that's it. That's how you add and maintain information within the library. Let me know if you have any questions. Anybody that came in late, we communicate with each other through WebEx chat. So just select that chat icon and ask your questions, and I'll open it up in just a second for some questions on this information that I've shared so far. Notice that we have a new horizontal menu bar in the upper right-hand corner. We'll talk about each one of these options in a minute, but the main one I want to point out to you at this point is this To Central. If you select this second icon, it simply takes you back out to this main Benergy Central page. So now I'm going to open it up for questions. And I don't see any at this point, but if you do, just let me know. I will kind of get the ball started by asking a couple of questions of my own. First one being is, where do you go to find the latest and greatest Benergy user guide? Does anybody remember where that is located? All right, y'all are going to be quiet. I guess maybe y'all haven't gotten the caffeine from lunch kicked in yet. The latest and greatest Benergy user guide, or any documentation for that matter, is located on our training site. So for the Benergy user guide, you would just come to the Benergy user guide section, expand it, and then you would see the Benergy user guide, and currently it's in both a Word document that can be branded and a PDF. So you would just select which one that you wanted. The second and last question on this section is, what is a benefit of the Creator Library? So if I go back here and I select the Control Center and go into this library, what's the benefit? What's the purpose of this library? Does anybody remember that? I know you guys know that. Y'all are going to make me do all the talking. Okay. All right. One of the main benefits of this library is it just makes it more efficient to add benefit content every plan year and throughout the year, maybe even possibly. So anything that the carrier possibly could provide the employees, it is great to add that content to the portal, and this is just an efficient way of doing that. All right, I see no additional questions, so we're going to move on. So let's talk about the rest of these options here. The first one, Home, this will take you to the main eBix Benergy Control Center. Brokers, this is what you would see. Site managers, you would see the organization you have security access to, and you would see two options off to the right vertically. You would see Edit Portal, which is where we're going to spend the majority of our time today, and you would also see Edit News, and this is taught during the booster training. So brokers, of course, you have a few more options. The first one being a new portal. If you have a brand new client and they have a brand new portal, you would simply select the plus to the left of New Portal, and it will take you to the organization company information page, and you would complete this information and move forward. Now, to save time during training, I'm going to edit an existing portal versus adding a brand new one. However, when you go in to edit an existing portal, it will land you on this same page. So everything that I'm showing you during today's training would still apply to an organization that you're building from scratch, brand new portal. All right, so we've already talked about this home icon taking you back out to this home landing page, if you will. We've already talked about To Central taking you all the way back out to that main Benergy Central page. Now let's talk about the last three. Now, this help icon, if you can see, are basically a little mini podcast, little mini videos, and you can see that they're quite outdated. However, the eBix training department has purchased a tool recently that is going to allow us to eventually update these. It's going to take some time, but we will eventually get them updated. However, in the interim, if any of these currently add value and you'd like to take a look at them and explore them, feel free to do so. The second option, or the next option, I guess I should say, is support. Now this is kind of nice because in one click of the mouse, you have all the different ways that you can reach out to a support specialist. So we have an eBix Benergy support team, and there are three main ways that you can reach out to them. The first and most popular is by email. So you can select this link here, right here within the Control Center, or this last tab on this horizontal menu bar, and it just opens up an email, and you can certainly send them an email with your question or issue or whatever you may be experiencing. Second way is chat live. So right here, this link here, or this middle tab, you can just click on it, and it just opens up a chat window where you can chat live with one of our support specialists. And then last but not least is our 1-800 number. You can always talk with a support specialist on the phone, and they will most certainly get your question or address your issue, whatever it might be. Now, these hours are Monday through Friday at Eastern Standard Time, so these are when our support team is available to assist you. And then these are the holidays that they observe. So just kind of a nice one-stop shop of all the different ways you can reach out to our support team, and we would be glad to help you. The last option here is log out. Again, we do recommend that you log out versus just closing a browser because it immediately terminates the connection to the internet, keeping all the information for all of the portals secure. This is particularly important if you have employee content here. All right, so edit, portal, edit news, we've talked about those. So copy portal, this is a nice capability that brokers have to save time. They can simply select the client that they want to, or portal they want to copy from. Select a little icon to the left of Copy Portal, and it just kind of reminds you a couple of steps that you must, edit and update once you make the copy. Once you've read through those, just simply select OK. And what the Control Center will do is take a complete snapshot of that particular portal and copy it and create a brand new portal. And you can identify that it's the copy version because it has the word copy in the parentheses. So at that point, you could just highlight that organization, select Edit Portal, and make those changes. So it saves a significant amount of time if the two portals are very similar. Brokers also have the capability to delete a portal for whatever reason. Again, you would highlight the appropriate portal, select the minus to the left of Delete Portal, and it takes you to a Delete Reason page. We actually use these reasons for reporting. Our management team reviews these on a monthly basis, and so if you could just select and identify the reason of why you're deleting the portal for whatever it is, then it will help us with that reporting and seeing how we can improve or identify the reason why that portal is no longer available. There is another category. We recommend that you don't use that because we can't capture the reason in the text box, but for training, I'm going to do just that and just put the reason I am in the middle of training. Once you identify those piece of information or the reason, then you would just simply select the negative to the left of delete, kind of a double check, and then here's your triple check. Just to make sure you don't inadvertently delete the wrong organization, it will ask you again, are you sure? If you want to proceed, just simply select OK. It deletes the portal and it gives you a instruction that it actually did make the delete. Oops, I didn't mean to highlight the entire thing. This one right here, this sentence. There we go. All right, brokers, you also have a few more options here at the bottom. You most certainly can access that creator library from this landing page as well. If you select that icon to the left, it just takes you to that same library. If you recall, we added a legal summary here. Previous takes me back out to the home landing page. And also, brokers have the capability of adding a logo to all of their clients' portals. So this is where they maintain that logo. So they can add or replace a broker logo here, and if they need to remove it or delete the logo, they most certainly can do that here as well. So I'm going to go to a brand new browser, and this time I'm going to log in as an employee, so you can see where the broker logo will display. So when employees need to access the portal, they will type in a URL. The first part of the URL is what we call the portal domain, and we'll talk more about that, but for my training company, it's called Organize It. Then for the majority of our clients, the remainder of that URL is .benergy.com. And it will take the employee to that login screen. Again, branding will be different, colors will be different. But one of the first things, as you will see on this The login screen is in the lower left-hand corner is a logo, and this is the broker logo. So brokers, if you want your logo to appear on this login page, you can add one from that Control Center home landing page. In addition, when the employees log in, I'll just kind of log in right quick as well. The broker logo also displays in the lower left-hand corner of the portal. So pretty decent exposure there. And this is where you would maintain that. The PVI import log, this is a new functionality. PVI is the interface for adding employees into the system. It's not covered in today's training, but that is why you may or may not see that capability when you log in. All right, so now that we've explained the differences between brokers and site managers, let's go ahead and pull everybody back in. Pretty much with one exception, everything at this point moving forward will be the same for everybody on the call. So my training organization is Organize It, so I'm going to select it. I'm going to select Edit Portal, the icon to the left of Edit Portal, and it takes me into the main part of the Control Center for Benergy. Notice a couple things for me. Brokers, notice that, that this page that we're landing on is the organization company information page. And if you recall, it's the same page or the same screen that we land on when we added a brand new portal. So again, everything that I'm covering right now from this point forward in our training will apply when you're adding a brand new portal from scratch. So I just wanted to point that out. A couple of other things I want to point out to you. Notice that that horizontal menu bar in the upper right-hand corner is identical to what we just went through. But then you also have a horizontal menu bar here in the upper left-hand corner. Now we're going to kind of start with organization and kind of move our way right, but we're only going to cover the pieces of configuration that's required to get a portal up and running. All the extras that really boost utilization from the employees, that is taught in our booster training. So I'll point that out to you as we move through. So the first option under organization is company information. Again, that's the landing page. So let's talk about a couple of things that we see. Notice that required fields are identified with an asterisk to the right of the field name. So for example, the company name, the portal display name, portal domain, that kind of thing, these are all required. And basically what that means in Benergy is that if a required field is indicated with an asterisk, then that field must be configured before the user can save. So that's what this button is down here, obviously. Bright orange button that says save. However, I do want to talk about the blue one off to the right labeled Next. This button will also save the current page's configuration, but it will also progress you to the next page. So it just saves you one click of the mouse, which we're all about saving time. So you'll see me select Next throughout training. All right, so let's just go ahead and get started. There's several sections on this page, starting with general company information, the first field being company name. And generally speaking, our clients put their company legal name here. So in my training organization, it's Organize It Incorporated. Whereas the display name can be an abbreviated form of that legal name, it can be an acronym, or it can be any other name that is easily recognized by the employees as the company they work for. Both are required, and the display name has a character limitation, as you can see, to 50 characters. And this is the name that actually appears on the portal, by the way. The next piece, the portal domain, which also has a character limitation, this is a critical piece. Because as you recall, when I logged in to the portal as an employee, I mentioned that the employees would have to key in a URL. The first part of that URL is what we call the portal domain. So what you're configuring at this point is that first part, basically the first half of the URL the employee is going to need to enter before they can access the portal, which is why we limited it to 20 characters. So that's basically what this says here. So it'd be my company, which really is the portal domain, .benergy.com. So I, in my training company, have identified the portal domain as Organize It. Now, the reason why this is grayed out, not active, is because I've already launched my portal. I've already launched it, activated all the logins and that kind of thing. Generally speaking, once a portal is launched and the URL is already communicated to the employees, it's unlikely you're going to want to change this. But as everyone knows, we live in a land of acquisitions and mergers and all kinds of crazy things going on in corporate America today. And so given that reason, there may be some valid times that you want to change this portal domain. So we've given you the capability, this is fairly new, this happened last year I believe, to edit. Notice the little triangle to the left of edit. It will just ask you, are you sure that you want to do this? If you do want to proceed, just simply select OK. And notice that now that field is no longer grayed out. It basically activates that field, allowing you to edit and update or modify that portal domain. Now, the tip I like to share here, of course, is if you decide to edit this, don't forget to let your employees know what the new URL will be to access their portal. All right, number of employees, pretty straightforward. We do have an accurate definition. If you notice that this word employees is a link, kind of goes through what we identify or how we define employee. But basically, it's anybody that accesses the portal. So if you have an employee, active employee, maybe even a retired employee, anybody that's still accessing the site is counted as an employee. And this is critical because that's how we do our billing. Based on this number, we bill monthly per employee per month. So this number needs to be kept current. Now, this number is not real time. It's actually maintained manually with 2 exceptions. So I'm keeping you guys on your toes after lunch. Everybody loves exceptions, right? So basically, the exception to this rule of thumb is the first one being if you add employees to your portal, to your control center, excuse me. If you add employees to the control center, allowing each employee to have their own unique login, then that capability, that functionality will keep this employee head count accurate. The second exception is if you upgrade or your client upgrades to Benergy enrollment system. If that's the case, then that interface that we have set up or will set up in those situations will keep this number real time and accurate and up to date. However, if you don't have those 2 exceptions, then this number will have to be manually updated. However, there's kind of a tip or a gotcha to that. Because billing is pulled from this number, once the portal's launched, we only give you a 60-day window each year to manage or update that number. So as you add employees or hire new employees, that number needs to be bumped up. As you terminate former employees, that needs to be bumped down. So it needs to be accurate because billing is taken from it, which is why we give you a 60-day window. So like oops, not sure what happened there. I apologize. I can't change that number if I wanted to. Like if in this field, I'm trying to hit numbers and it won't update it because I'm outside of that date range. So one particular year on May 24th, I launched this portal. So that's why it gives me the 60-day window each calendar year, and it's not quite the 24th yet. It's the 9th, so I can't update that number. However, having said that, I know that there are times where there's waves of new hires or layoffs where there's times that you need to change the head count outside of that 60-day window. And we have a workaround to that. You just reach out to someone from client services, whether it's support, implementation, or an account manager, and they can update that number for you. So there is a way to get that number updated or changed outside of that 60-day window. Let me know if you have any questions about that, but I'm going to move on. The rest of these fields right here are for reporting purposes. We ask for your pay frequency. If there's only one payroll frequency in this particular organization, just select the radio button to the left of single and identify which one it is. If there's more than one, identify and select this radio button. And if it's indicative of one of these 3 things, we ask that you just select one or more of those. Most certainly can add the corporate website. And then the last 2 are industries. One is just a general industry. We ask that you just find the best fit. If you don't find one that's a good fit, select other and just identify what the industry is here in the other text box. The next one is the North American Industry Classification System code, and this is maintained by the Census Bureau, so you might see these updated, but most clients, organizations can identify which one that they are, either by the name or by the number, the code, and then we use that for reporting as well. The next section is company contact information, and we ask for several contacts, but only one is required, which is your HR contact. All of their information, email address, telephone number, those are all required because this is how we reach out to this organization. So we ask that you keep this information up to date. The next section is email to HR. Now this is the first bit of information or place within the configuration of building and adding a portal that you kind of need to have an understanding of how this organization wants to group their employees. Does it make sense for this organization, whether it's driving, benefit eligibility, or whatever the purpose is, by employee type? Or does this organization need to group them by geographic location, like by state, by city. Maybe they have HR has a classification system code that eligibility is based on. Whatever the case may be, this is the point where you need to start thinking about that, because those different groups of employees possibly have different HR teams or HR contacts that supports those groups of employees. So having said all that, one of the benefits of our system is that we can link email addresses to those different user groups. So the employees, when they explore the portal, if they have a question about their benefits or a policy or something they find on that site, they can easily reach out to the HR resource that supports them as that type of employee. So for example, when I logged in to this portal, I logged in as a full-time employee. So when I log into the portal, I only see benefits that pertain to me as a full-time employee. I only see HR items that pertain to me as a full-time employee. I don't see anybody else's. I don't see part-time. I don't see executive. All the information that's found on this portal is all about full-time employees. So if I have a question or concern or I don't understand something, I can easily reach out to an HR resource that supports me because they support full-time employees. So when the employee clicks on this link labeled Email HR, it routes their question or their concern or whatever it is to the appropriate HR resource. And this link right here displays because this functionality is enabled. So it allows the employee to have that capability. So that's what this right here is. This link right here, display email link on Benergy, that's what that's all about. So you have to have at least one HR email, but I would encourage you to add all the different groups. Now notice these are group email addresses. We do recommend that versus individual email addresses because people tend to go on breaks, go on vacations, and that kind of thing. And then you most certainly, once one's added, as you can see, it kind of just builds a nice little table where each one of these have two links off to the right where you can edit and delete to kind of keep the information current. But let me just show you how easy it is to add an email address. So I'm going to add one for recruiting. Select Save, and just add it to the table. If I need to make any kind of changes, you know, I most certainly can do that. Whatever it is, select Update, it's been saved. And then the delete, of course, if there's an individual that's changed job roles or maybe a group email address does no longer exist, you must certainly have that delete capability as well. As many as you need, by the way. So if you have a large organization that has HR people spread out all over North America, add as many as you need. All right, greeting and introduction. By default, there is a greeting. So to preview the greeting, the default greeting, or to customize it, you would need to select this link here labeled Preview/Override. Once selected, it simply identifies what the default introduction is. If you want to customize it, you most certainly can do that by selecting the checkbox to the left of this override statement and adding your custom introduction or your custom greeting. Notice again there's some editing capabilities. And what this looks like to the employee, I'll just shut these are taught in the other class, is right here. So there is an introductory paragraph or a greeting paragraph, and that is the custom message I wanted the employees of my training company to read. So it can be as specific or as generic as you would like it to be. So that's what this is. The last section, Activate Enrollment Module, may not even appear for a particular organization. This is if that client has upgraded to our Benergy enrollment solution. It's an online enrollment system that allows employees of an organization to either enroll or waive benefits during open enrollment. So if they have our Benergy solution, then what will happen is an implementation specialist will configure both control centers, or one will configure one and one will configure another. And once the configuration is completed for both systems, then this will be activated, and there's a piece that has to be done on the enrollment side to link the two together. So at that point, the enrollment control center kind of becomes a system of record, if you will, and that's where all the new employees will be hired. That's where all the former employees will be terminated, and all that information, all that employee data will flow to the Benergy Control Center to keep the information up to date here in this product. So one-way interface, though, it doesn't work the other way around, which is kind of why I said the Enrollment Control Center becomes the system of record. There's no interface that takes the information here in this Benergy Control Center and move it into enrollment. It's just from enrollment to Benergy. And that's it. That's the first page, the organization company information. Does anybody have any questions at this point? All right, I don't see any, but of course, I've got a couple of my own. So while you guys are thinking about questions, just going to ask a couple of my own. First question is, what symbol indicates that a field is required? And I know you guys know this one. If a field is required, how does the control center indicate that it is? Exactly, thank you. It is the asterisk. All right, last question is, what is the purpose of linking an HR email address to a user group? Now, I've not shown you where you add user groups, and we'll show you that in a minute, but this functionality right here, there's several benefits to this, by the way, but can anybody remember one? Why take the time to add this functionality to an organization? Does anybody remember that? Yep, I've got a couple of answers. Different locations, yep, you can most certainly group employees by different locations, by employee type, and that way they access only their benefits, only the HR pieces. So all those answers are correct. It's exactly correct. So you can add as many email addresses here, whatever HR resources that an organization has, they can add them here, and that way when the employees log in to the portal over here, that they can see information like benefits and HR items that only pertain to them. If they've got a question, they only have to simply click this link, select the link labeled Email HR, and it routes the email to the appropriate resource. And I'll show you where the control center makes that connection. I'll show you how the system knows where to route that email address. All right, I see no additional questions, so I'm going to move on. All right, this broker information page is only seen by brokers. This is the last time that the training is different for brokers versus site managers. It is basically just a couple of pieces of information that we need to know from the brokerage firm. First one being the players. Who is the producer? Who is the account manager? Who is going to build portals? Names only. The second piece is, does the broker want their logo to appear on this particular client's portal? So this is not where you add this logo. It does display here for you so you can see. But basically, this is only where you enable it. You select it, you enable it. That means this logo will appear. If you deselect it, this logo won't appear. But if you recall, the logo actually gets added right here. So on the broker information page, that's only where you enable it or disable it for this particular organization. And that's it. This homepage marquee is no longer applicable, and we're in the process of removing that from our system. That's it. Any questions? The main piece I want you guys to remember is that this is not where you add the broker logo. This is only where you enable it. All right, I see no questions. I'm going to keep moving. Now notice that we have a new button in the lower right-hand corner. It's previous. So as I mentioned, the next will say the current page's configuration and move you forward a screen. This one obviously will take you back to this page right here, the previous screen. But it also is a reset. So unlike the next button, this does not, the previous button does not save the information, which can be a good thing or a bad thing, right? But I just want to make sure you guys understand that it does not save. All right, let's pull everybody back in and let's talk about site managers and user groups. Now these are totally unrelated. They just happen to be on the same page. Let's start with the site managers and talk about the user groups after that. Site managers, these are individuals from the client or from the brokerage firm that needs to have access to the control center, what you're seeing in training. Not the portal, not employees, but do they need to have access to the control center and all this information that we're covering today? If they do, this is where you need to add them. So it's quite easy, and notice that there's one already out here, so it kind of creates a table. So let's add a new one. Let's go ahead and add any add them. So you add a user ID, which is kind of like a username, and this must be unique. Can't have been used before. Password can be anything and is required. Email address is not required, but we do recommend it, so I will most certainly add it. Once you add these two pieces or three pieces of information, select Save, and it simply adds that new site manager here to the bottom. So now we have two users admin users that can have access to the control center. Notice that to the right of each one of these users, there are also 2 links where you can edit and delete. So let's just select edit. Notice it pops the information back up here at the top, and at that point you most certainly can modify any of this information really, and select save. But before we do that, I want to point out to you 2 disable capabilities. So you most certainly can disable 2 pieces of functionality for a particular site manager. First one is being benefits. Now, the majority of our training today is spent on benefits when we're talking about the configuration piece. If you do not want this particular site manager to have access to benefits, just simply select this checkbox here. Now, notice that this right here is a link. So this long thing is a link. So it's this link labeled disable ability to add, edit, or delete any benefit plans. If you select that, it just clearly identifies what they won't be able to do and what they still will be able to do. So it just helps you make a more informed decision. But if you want to move forward with that, select that checkbox, and they won't even see the benefits option. It won't even display on their horizontal menu. The next piece that you can disable is design it yourself. Now, we haven't talked about that today because it's not covered in this training, but it is in the booster training. But it's basically how you can design the portal to have its look and feel as far as color fonts, as far as logos, images, and that kind of thing. So if you don't want them to have that capability, just simply select the checkbox to the left of this disable statement. Once you make all your changes, select save, and it just saves that information down here. Now, when this particular user logs in with these login credentials, then they won't see benefits or design it yourself. But this particular employee or site manager will. Let me know if you have any questions. This is unlimited, so it basically creates a table, and you can have as many site managers if you need to. So whether it's 5, 15, 25, whatever it is, you can add as many as needed for this particular organization. So having said that about site managers, now let's talk about our user groups. So this is kind of where we start making sense of what user groups are and how valuable they are to add to the control center and the value it adds to both the employer and the employee. So my company, as I mentioned earlier, I group them by employee type. So I have executive, full-time, part-time, that kind of thing. But again, you can have geographic locations, you can have classification system coding, whatever you need to add for this organization, you most certainly can. Again, it creates a table, and there's 2 links off to the right, of course, to edit and delete capability. So it all works very similar. So let's just add one right quick. Again, let's add one for recruiting. This is where you tie in those email addresses that we saw on that first page to a particular user group. So this is how the system knows where to route those emails. So I'm going to select this particular email address. So any prospect that we give this login and password to, if they log in and they select email HR, the system will route it to this email address. So that's the connecting piece. That's how the system knows. So that a user ID, again, must be unique. So we will add the user ID and password. Select save, and it, of course, adds it to the table. Now, what is important as well is if you need to edit any of this information, let's say that this mailbox is no longer being monitored, so you need to select edit. Again, it pulls the information back up here to the top, and you can reroute those emails to a valid email address. Change password if you need to, whatever you need to do, you most certainly can. Select save, and it saves those changes. And of course, you can delete it. 2 clicks of the mouse, it's gone. Again, unlimited. So one of the crucial values, just to kind of reiterate that, and we mentioned it earlier, to taking the time to add more than 1 user group, because there is one that is required, you have to have at least 1, is that it gives different login experiences when the employees log in. So if a full-time employee wants to log into the portal, you would give them these login credentials. And then again, when they log in, they're going to see benefits that just pertain to them, HR items that just pertain to them. So that's really a win-win, right, for the employee, because they only see things that pertain to them, so there's less confusion. And it's a win for the HR department because they're not inundated with questions and issues from employees that they don't support, that they may not even know about, because we all know benefits and laws, for that matter, are very different in California than they are in other parts of the country like Georgia. And, you know, Florida and, you know, Illinois could be very, very different. So it's nice that you can kind of customize that experience for the employee because it encourages utilization. Any questions about site managers and user groups? I'll open up chat to see if there are any. Looks like I've got a question. Site managers includes brokers' employees too, and the answer to that is correct. This would be anybody that needed access to the control center, whether in the brokerage firm or the client. Very good question. Any other questions? If you do, just keep on typing. I've got a couple of questions myself. First one being, how many site manager logins can be added? Are you limited to how many site managers that you can add here? It's unlimited, exactly, correct, very good. What is the importance or a importance of the user groups? Why is it worthwhile to add multiple user groups? And there's several of them. We've not talked about all of them at this point, but does anybody want to take a stab at that? A value that adding user groups does for? Exactly. Yeah. It helps, it routes it has correct information on the portal, and it also routes the emails to the appropriate HR resource. That's exactly correct. Thank you so much. All right, well, I don't see any additional questions, so I'm going to keep moving. This is the last section under organization that we're going to cover, employee personalization, design it yourself, special alerts. They're all taught in our booster training, so I'd encourage you to attend. It's a great way to add those extras to make sure those employees utilize the portal. So we're going to move to portal setup, and the only one we're covering under this section today is benefits. The rest of them we cover during booster, but before we go into this benefits section of portal setup, I do want to mention and define what portal setup is. All of the options under portal setup really identifies what needs to be included on the portal. So you're not adding all the detailed plans of the benefits here. You're just simply identifying what benefits does this particular organization offer their employees. So let's go ahead and select benefits now. So as you can see, that we have benefits, and we have 4 main categories of benefits, or groupings of benefits, if you will. We have health, we have income protection, and we have financial as well as work life. And at this point, you would just go down and select, okay, does this organization offer medical plans? Yep, select it. Dental, vision, life, so forth. So you're just identifying the benefits that this particular organization offers their employees. We do have some customization capability. You most certainly can change the display name. So if this particular organization doesn't call benefits benefits, you most certainly can customize the name. Now, a tip I'll share with you here is notice the word display. Anytime that you see display, portal, site, they all mean the same thing. It's the communications portal site that you grant access to for all your employees. It's basically this, whatever it might look like for that particular organization. There is a character limitation, of course, so just keep that in mind when you're customizing the name, and you can see that I've done that a couple times down here. So instead of life and accident insurance, my organization only offers life, so I customize the name. The disability insurances, most employees recognize the acronym, so I updated that just to make it a little bit shorter. Now, a couple of things I want to say on this particular screen is we give you the capability to have custom benefit programs. And one of the ones I like to share during training is prescriptions, because we're seeing more and more carriers breaking out prescription coverage out of the medical plan. If that is the situation for your particular client, then just select the checkbox here and then select Add Program. So I'll just show you. This one's already been added, so I'm going to just call this one Test and select the plus to the left of Add Program, and it adds it. And if I save it and go to Benefits, go to Health, you'll see that they're added here. And you can dictate the order. If you want this one to be listed first, you most certainly can do that. And if you need to remove one of these custom programs, you most certainly can do that by selecting Delete. It gives you a little warning. It's a little bit larger than most. And the reason is because once you launch the portal and you go through open enrollment, it's unlikely you'll ever want to delete a custom benefit program, because it will delete all the history behind it. And I mean not the history, excuse me, all the benefit plans. So unless it's beginning in the configuration or maybe before open enrollment starts, it's probably unlikely, but possible, and you most certainly can do that. But that's why all of that additional verbiage was there for the warning. So you would most certainly do that for all these different categories of benefits. And then there's a couple more options at the very bottom. The calculators and glossary, these are additional tools that comes with Benergy. And you most certainly can select these that add value and tools, decision support tools really, for your employees on the portal. And they're located in the Benefit Center. So if I go to the Benefit Center, okay, talk too much, it does log out, depending on your organization, anywhere from 10 to 20 minutes. So I obviously was talking longer than that. So the Benefit Center, if you notice off to the right vertically, there is a link labeled Financial Calculators. If selected, it will show the employee all the different calculators that they have to choose from. And if they're interested in one, they want to do some number crunching before they enroll in benefits, all they have to do is select whichever one, plug in some numbers. All comes with Benergy. Great resource for them. Kind of can help them determine how much to save for a pension plan, IRA, maybe a spending account, whatever. Just great access, great tools for the employee. The glossary is on the vertical menu here off to the left. It's this link here, glossary. Now, this is not the PRPACA required one, the uniform glossary. This is actually ours. It's quite extensive. It's quite large. You most certainly can print a hard copy of that, but I will warn you it will be a humongous document. But they're sorted alphabetically. Let's select S, the common letter. There's several benefit terms, as you can see, as well as their definition. And there's also acronyms. So like if an employee comes across a document with SEC and they don't know what that stands for, they can come in here, see that it stands for Securities and Exchange Commission. If they're still not sure what that is, just click on that link and it defines what that particular acronym is all about, or that commission is all about. So these come with the product and you just simply need to enable it. Now this last section only applies if your organization has the eBix's LIN enrollment product, maybe through TotalWorks. Then we can offer a link to the login screen for them so the employees can go out there to enroll in their benefits. And if it's a third-party enrollment, we can provide a link for them as well. Now, it's not single sign-on, but it does give them easy access to the URL where they would actually make their election. So this is only if they do not have the eBix Benergy enrollment product. But if you need to take advantage of that, you most certainly can. Just enable it by selecting the checkbox to the left of this enable statement. And then this is by default selected. In order to not have the system override their existing browser with the portal in it, if this is selected, it just simply opens up a new window, a new browser window. If it's a LIN product, they would select this checkbox here and complete the information. If it's a third party, as you see here, then you would select the checkbox to the left of the third party and complete the information. And what this looks like to the employee on the home page will be a link. I'll close this again. Right here, the last link under the I'm Here To section is Enroll in My Benefit Plan. If the employee is ready to enroll during open enrollment, they click on this link and it takes them to the login screen for their third-party enrollment system. Now, this verbiage of this link would change if it's outside of the open enrollment dates, and it will then read check or change my benefit election. So that language of the link will change depending on whether it's in or outside of open enrollment. And that's it. That's portal setup benefits. Again, just identifying what needs to be included on the portal. Are there any questions here? Okay. I don't see any. So the only question I have is, can benefit display names be customized? Easy question. I'll give you a hint. I'll scroll up. If they want to call a benefit by another name, can they do that? Yeah, absolutely. They can. Thank you. All right, last question is, how can a benefit program be added, or can it even be added? If an organization has a benefit program that you do not see here, so there's no checkbox, it's not even listed, can one be added? Absolutely. Yep. Yep, you're right, exactly. So you just select the checkbox here and add it and select the add button. Pretty straightforward. All right, well, if there's any questions, let's go ahead and get into the heart of benefits. If you scroll over to the benefits, you'll see that there are 4 categories, and those 4 are identified here. So if there's at least one a program that was selected under each category, then it will be listed here. So you can have up to 4, but you could have less than 4. So for example, if you did not select anything under work life, if none of these are selected, then they won't show up here. So just wanted to let you know that. That confuses some people. Sometimes they'll see one is missing. So I know every single employee, or every single person, excuse me, that is taking this training probably are experts at benefits. Some of them have probably been in benefits a lot longer than I have. I don't know. So I'm not going to talk about what benefits are, but basically how you can take the information, the benefit information from the carrier and from the organization and add it to the control center so it can be available to their employees to elect. So that's really what I'm covering in today's training. So I'm going to select the first category just because, again, most organizations offer, medical in particular, but also usually dental and vision as well. And I'm just going to select medical. And I'm going to kind of walk through the process because all of the steps are really the same for all those different programs, and with one exception. All of the health benefits here under this first category, they're added in 4 steps. And all the other benefits have 3 steps. And the reason for the additional step for the health benefits is because of this plan comparison tool. So in Benergy, we can grant the capability, so you have to enable it, of course, so that checkbox must be selected in step 2, in order for employees to compare 2 or 3 plans side by side to make a more informed decision. So again, this is if they're out here in the portal, and we'll go to the Benefit Center, and let's just again select medical. We'll go to the PPO. If that's enabled, the compare plans is enabled, they will see this link to the right. They can click on it, and they'll have all of their benefit plans, and they can select 2 or 3 and select compare plans, and side by side they can see all the different things and how the different plans compare to each other for all the general provision, for the copay co-insurances, as well as the employee contributions. So here's the one plan, HMO, here's the second plan, PPO. So they can just kind of go by and compare the differences, and since PPO has an in-network and an out-of-network provision, then they can just compare all of those side by side to see what is the best choice for them. They want that capability, then this would be enabled. Now there is a warning, as you can see off to the right of that tool as well, and that is because our health benefits have 3 templates to them. And templates, I know, are a scary word because so many contracts these days from carriers are so particular and specific to each organization. But our templates have a lot of room for capability, and we'll talk more about that in a minute. But if the decision is made to override one or more of those templates, it does disable the plan comparison tool, which is what that warning says there. And we'll talk more about that in a minute. But let's kind of digress, and let's go back to step 1. In step 1, you have the capability of previewing an existing introduction for the medical benefit program. There's a different one for dental, a different one for vision. So notice this link right here, preview/override, will allow you to read through that default introduction statement for medical plans. If you want to customize it and make it unique, you most certainly can do that by selecting the checkbox to the left of this override statement and then adding or pasting in, so that copy-paste functionality does work within Benergy, your own unique introduction. Again, each different benefit program has their own introduction. And what this looks like to the employees, if we kind of go back, one more, right here. So that's the introduction to the medical. So you can, highlight maybe some changes, particularly if you change carriers or something big like that. You can highlight that information. You can give some instructions here. You pretty much have some freedom of what you want to add here, whatever you think is pertinent for this plan year. All right, we've already talked about step 2. Step 3 is managing plans. You can see that all these plans are listed here. It is default to all plans, but that might list a lot of them, especially if you guys have been with us for a long time. So you most certainly can override that by selecting one of these other links. So it basically creates a table of all of your benefits. You most certainly can dictate the order of how it will display to the employee from the portal point of view, and you also most certainly can edit and delete. Now, we're going to talk more about this in a minute, but let's jump to step 4. Step 4 is adding a plan, and you can either create a brand new one or you can copy an existing, and I'm going to walk you through both just so you can see what they look like. To add a new plan, it's quite simple. It's a two-step process. You need to identify the provider and the plan type. So the provider is listed here. We have a whole table of providers, and it's unlikely you will not see yours, but we have a workaround if you don't. We are constantly adding to this table, and notice that there's an other right here. So even though we have hundreds and hundreds of carriers or providers, notice that if you can't find one, there is an other category. You most certainly can select the other category and identify who that provider is in the other text box if you need to. The last, but also very important piece is the plan type. Now, the plan type is what type of plan it is. You know, is it an HMO, PPO, that kind of thing. And the reason why it's so critical is that once this plan has been added, it cannot be edited. The plan type cannot be edited once the plus to the left of Add Plan is selected. So when I select the plus, it not only adds the plan, but it takes me to the first page of configuration. So this is Plan Home is the name of this page. And I point that out to you because, again, to save time during training, I'm not going to add a brand new benefit plan from scratch. I'm going to edit an existing one. But all of this information that I'm going to go over when we edit an existing one is the same for whether you add a new one. Something else I want to point out to you here is the field, the screen name. So notice this Plan Home in this blue font is the name that you'll see in this menu here. So it's right here. So this Take Me To menu is awesome for when you're copying plans because you can jump to different areas of the benefit setup, and I'll show you that here in a minute. But I'm going to select Previous, and I'm going to go back out to step 4, and instead of adding in the new one this time, I'm going to copy from an existing plan. It's a huge time saver, particularly if a lot of the content is the same. But I'm going to select this little icon to the left of Copy Plan, and it gives me 3 steps that I must complete in order to make that copy. The first step is to identify the library. So brokers, if you have multiple libraries here, you will see them. Site Manager, you may only see the one that you have access to. Step 2 is to identify the plan. So based on what you select up here will dictate what displays down here. So let's say we want to copy the plan, the PPO from 2013. And then the last and final step is to actually make the copy. Simply by selecting the Here link in step 3, it just makes a complete copy. And you can tell which plan is copied because it's date and time stamped. So this one right here is the brand new one. It's the one we just did today. And at this point, you would just select the icon to the left of Edit, and it takes you to none other than the Plan Home page. So at this point, if the only thing that's changed in this plan from last plan year to the next plan year is the contributions, you can go to the Take Me To button, select Contributions, change your rate, select Save, you're done. But of course, because we're going to be methodical and go through each screen, I'm going to jump back to the screen name Plan Home, and we're going to kind of work from this first page and go through each one of these options. If you have questions along the way, let me know. All right, the first page is the Plan Home page, and there's a couple of pieces of information that are important that must be configured here. The first are, what are we going to call the plan? Are we going to call it, the name of the carrier, the plan type? What are we going to name it? So then you can customize it. Now notice that this is an override. If you leave this field blank, it will display this big long name here. It's quite lengthy, which is why we have a character limitation on it. So if you leave this blank, which you most certainly can, it will just add this long name. Now we do have 2 different kind of names. One is the display name. So if you remember the trick I shared with you earlier, display means what's on the portal. So this is what employees see. So you want to make sure it's, clear, concise, and short to identify the plan. The other name is for the control center. So that's what you see back here in the control centers. The only brokers and the employees of the brokerage firm as well as site managers will see this name. Now, I like to leave them the same, but you most certainly might have a valid reason to make them different. But I'm going to change and edit out the date and time stamp. I no longer need that. Group number, if you have it, you most certainly can add that. Now dates, there's 4 sets, there's 4 dates, 2 sets of dates that I'd like to talk about because sometimes these get confusing. The first 2 dates are simply the plan year. First day of the plan year, which is the plan effective date, and the last day of the plan year, which is the plan end date. Notice that my training company, the plan year is synonymous with calendar year, which is why you see January 1st through December 31st. Now these next sets of dates have the word display in it. So that indicates to me that that is what when the employees will see this plan. So these can be blank. If they're blank, it will immediately show up forever, as long as you guys are a client of ours. But at minimum, the first day of the display start date must be the open enrollment date. If you're not going to leave them blank, then this date must be at least the open enrollment date, because an employee can't learn about a benefit if they can't see it during open enrollment. The next date is the display end date. So this most certainly can be the last day of the plan year. It can be blank, which will just show indefinitely, or it can be a couple of years in the future if you allow your employees to see a couple of years prior elections, just to kind of remind them what they've had in the past. So those are the differences. If you have questions about that, let me know. And then, of course, there's the plan copy and update capability. So it works very similar to the copy functionality I just showed you. So that is the plan homepage. So let's keep moving. Unless you have questions, and I'll check periodically, but I don't see any questions at this point. So we're going to jump to the summary of benefits and coverage. Now this is a PROPACA requirement that came out at the end of third quarter. And basically what that PROPACA requirement requires of employers is to let the employees know, or to have available to them, the summary of benefits and coverages, and this is provided by the carrier. So you most certainly don't have to add it to the portal. What better way to communicate that and share that with your employees but to have it on the portal? And you can do that in a number of ways. Notice that mine is just been added to the library. So all I had to do is select this. If I want to take a look at that, what's been added, I can most certainly do that here. But this is if you don't have any summary of benefits and coverage. So you most certainly can add one. If there's some listed, they'll just be listed with a radio button on to the left. But to add a new one, you would just simply select here in that sentence, it's a link, and you would give it the title. And I don't recommend using the acronym. Most employees don't recognize the summary of benefits and coverage yet. And coverage, can't type. And then you have two choices. If the carrier provided you a document, just select Browse and find it so you can pull it through. If they provided this document on their website, just provide the URL, and the employee will either see a document or be directed to the website. Once you've made your changes or your information, select Save, and it adds it here. I'll just quickly add a document so you can see what that looks like. Oops. Uh-oh. Uh-oh, it's going to close. Oh, it recovered it. I'm not sure what happened there. Looks like I'm having some technical difficulty. Let me just, maybe it was my document. Let me add another one. All right, good. All right, so once one is added, then you can just select the radio button. So you can choose from the library or the one that you just added. Any point in time, brokers, this library icon, just click on it. It automatically adds it to the library. And everyone, site managers, brokers alike, can edit the information or delete it. So that's the summary of benefits and coverage. Moving on to the next one is our first template. We now call it Benefits Overview, but we used to call it a Benefit Summary, and that the wording was so close to the PROPACA requirement that we changed it to Benefit Overview. But this is the first of three templates, and as we mentioned, that if you override the template, it will disable the comparison tool. But if you override this particular template, it also overrides the highlights page, and we haven't talked about that, but we will here in a few. But if after training, you still want to override the template, you most certainly can do that. There is a checkbox to the left of the override statement, and then you would just select this Add Edit link, and you can paste the benefit overview. You can freeform text and have some edit capability. But hopefully by the end of training, you will be discouraged from adding your own and just using the template and customizing it. So speaking of customization, one of the first things that we allow you to do is change how those percentages appear to the employees. Now, most organizations like to share the percentage that the plan covers, But if you have an organization that wants to share the percentage that the employee is still responsible in paying, then you most certainly can select this checkbox and it will do just that. In addition to that, right off the bat, you have a header, which can be totally customized. You have 2,000 characters to do it, and you can add, highlight information, or you can highlight changes. You can have open enrollment dates as a reminder. You can use this for whatever you need to use it for. Then you have the general provisions. Now, because this is a PPO and most plans are like this, where there has an in-network benefit and an out-of-network benefit, but if you don't call it that, these names can be customized. But the general provisions, the first one is deductible, and they can be different for the in versus the out-of-network. But if there's not one, just select none. If there is one, and you can handle it in one of these ways, where it's a flat dollar amount for the individual and a family amount, then use our templated information. You can even identify the accrual period. But if that information doesn't apply, then you have a custom box with 750 characters to identify how is the deductible determined in this particular plan for in-network, for this particular organization. So if it's not one of these, how is it determined? Notice also for the family deductible, you can have none. You can have a flat dollar amount, or you can have so many times the individual amount. And you can identify what accrual period. Is it calendar, or is it some other fiscal year or plan year? In addition to those updates and flexibility, you can also add any kind of exclusions and rules and limitations. And you have additional 750 characters to do that. Lots of customization, still using the template and still having those employee tools available to them from the portal. Sometimes there's questions built into the template. Out-of-pocket maximum, if there's not any, you most certainly can identify that. If it fits within our templated information, you can select those. It's flat dollar amount, family limit, flat dollar amount, so many times the employee. But if none of those apply to the out-of-pocket maximum, you must certainly have 750 additional characters to identify how is that maximum treated within the network for this particular plan. Again, there's questions. Now, again, do not show on output means you don't even want this entire section on the portal. A lifetime benefit maximum, this is now unlimited for everyone. This is a PROPACA requirement, so this just needs to be set to unlimited. Primary care, if there is one, you can identify if it's required or not. Questions, now a couple of things I want to say about questions, because I sometimes get asked this: what's the difference between do not show on output, which of course means the portal, and no? Now I have this set to do not show, so this question and answer won't even display. If you like it and you want it to display, you can select yes. But let's say that you like it, but it's not 100% accurate for this particular organization. You need to customize it in some way. In that particular case, you would select no. You can highlight and copy the question and answer, paste it here, and then come up here and make your edit, make your changes, customize it so it pertains to your particular organization. Network directory. This is critical. A lot of employees want to know what kind of providers or who their providers will be in this plan before they make a decision, so you can add that as well. And then here's the money piece. Again, different for in-network or out-of-network. We have every office visit that you can possibly imagine. Again, it can be not covered, flat dollar amount, or percentage after the deductible is met. But if it's not determined that way, there's your custom box. There's your exclusion box. But the main thing I want to point out to you is this little guy right here. It's a blue box with an arrow in it. And what this does is it allows you to quickly copy this copay in this first visit to all these other doctor's office visits. So if it's the same, or the majority of these visits have a $25 copay, then just select OK and allow the system to copy it. It saves you a lot of time, and then you can just update the exceptions. I happen to leave mine different just for purposes of illustration, showing you that it most certainly can be different. So there's, again, questions, and all this is the same. I'm not going to read through all this. I think you guys get the gist. I want to kind of jump down, though, to prescriptions, since we've already mentioned that they can be different. If they are included in this particular benefit medical plan, then you can most certainly add them. If they're not, then you can most certainly say not covered. But if they are included, and if it's the default retail, then you would leave it up to 30-day supply. However, we give the freedom and the capability for you to customize that by selecting other and then identifying, well, how many days is supply, or how many months is the supply for retail. And then you have 3 tiers to identify the co-payments, and then the same for the mail order. Typically, it's up to a 90-day supply, but if it's not that, something else, identify what it is. And again, you have 3 tiers to identify dollar amounts. Again, if there's limitations, exclusions, rules against the retail or the mail order, you can add them here, 750 characters each. And then you most certainly can have a custom, and you have 2,500 characters. So if you have a 4th tier level, or you need to add any additional information, or it's just completely configured and calculated differently, you have 2,500 characters to do that. Still using the template, still allowing those tools to be used by the employee. Of course, mental health, substance abuse. Now, out-of-area benefits. If the employee happens to travel out of their typical area of coverage, what does the employee need to do? You can add all the rules and information of how the employee can access care if they're out of their area, and you have 2,500 characters to do that. In addition to that, you have the capability of adding unlimited provisions. So there's already one here. It just kind of creates a table. So if I add a new one by selecting this link labeled Add, I can just identify the provision, keeping in mind the limitations here. Add the in-network benefit, the out-of-network benefit, select Save, and it just adds it. Unlimited. It can be edited and deleted at any point in time, and the order can be dictated, so you can move these around. In addition to that, those extra provisions, you also have the capability of adding 3 additional highlights. So you can add the headline, which is the header. This is limited to 30 characters. The body or the content area is limited to 100. So you can add as much information there as you need to. And then, of course, you can finish it up with a custom footer. So this is the first template. It does enable all of those tools, and it gives you lots of room for customization. I'm going to stop quickly right now to see if there's any questions, because I know that's a lot. Okay, no questions, so I'm going to keep moving to the second template. The second template has to do with eligibility. Again, you most certainly can override that by selecting that checkbox and adding or pasting the eligibility rules for this plan in here. But not only, if you override the template, not only will it disable the plan comparison in the highlights page that we've already talked about, but it also will disable the plan tours, and you will love those. I promise I will show you those to you. Great value added for the employees. So let's talk about eligibility template. The first thing being is user groups. So we've already talked about that there can be different user groups for different benefits, because their benefit eligibility can be different. Now, by default, all is selected, but if you're adding a medical plan that is only going to pertain to executive and full-time employees for whatever reason, then you most certainly can override that default and identify who is eligible to elect this plan. In addition to that, who's eligible? So you basically have 3 categories. You most certainly can add everyone, and you can customize what all employees mean. So if there's particular rules, you need to clarify that, whatever, you most certainly can do that. 750 characters. Or you can select full-time. Again, you can define what they are, or part-time, and you can define what they are. Each of these have 750 characters. I'm making this one eligible for all. Oh, let's just override the template, I guess. Let's do just full-time. The next piece is the dependents. When are they eligible? And there's 4 main categories. There's spouse and their children that they've had together, domestic partner, and those children. And so you can just simply identify who can be eligible, and you can add definitions, custom definition. What is considered a spouse? What is considered a domestic partner? And then children, you have a couple of capabilities. You most certainly can define or add rules here. But if the plan has a level of ineligibility, which most do, then you can specify 2 different levels. You can specify them as a dependent, generally speaking, what that age of ineligibility is. And if they're a student, if that age is different, you can identify that as well. But you also can dictate how quickly they become ineligible after they turn and reach that age. Do you want to do it immediately, pay period that holds their birth date, the end of the month, end of the year? So you have some flexibility there. Same is true for domestic partnerships. That works very similar to the spouse, and the children of domestic partnerships, of course, work very similar to their other dependent children. So a good bit of customization here. And then last but not least is how quickly is the employee eligible. Of course, it can be date of hire like you see here, or so many days after they're hired. None of those apply. There's the other category, and you can specify what it is. Still using the template, but giving you a good bit of freedom and customized capabilities. All right, the last and third template is the, and I did not finish, and I didn't mean to do that. There we go. All right, so basically what that means, if you select other, you have to identify what it is when the employee is eligible, and I didn't mean to save it that way. All right, the third and final template here is for the employee contribution. So does it cost the employee money to have this level of coverage? And the first thing you most certainly can do is override it, but hopefully, again, that you won't. But if you want to and need to, then there's the checkbox, there's the link, but it does disable these two tools. But as you can see, we have all kinds of coverage. So payroll people, you can see that we have all kinds of tiers. And you would simply just select the coverage tier that applies to this organization for this plan. The most common, or actually the most common, are listed at the top of the list. And you have some additional capabilities to customize this. If there is an employee contribution, you can determine the flat dollar amount. So you can add how much it's going to cost the employee and whether it's a per pay period amount or a monthly amount. Or if that doesn't work, if the employer covers 100%, then you would select the none, the radio button to the left of none, meaning the employer is going to cover 100% of the cost of the employee-only coverage for this PPO plan. If neither of those are the case, there's your custom box. So tell us, how much is it going to cost? How is that contribution calculated for this employee for this particular tier? So again, lots of room for customization, and those options are there and available for each tier. All right, moving on to legal summaries. Now we added a custom legal summary, and we added it to our library. So this is kind of where we connect the dots with that. So there were 3 legal summaries. This is, of course, the one we added today. So if you're not sure what it is, you most certainly can click on it and read through that information. And if you decide to add it, you most certainly can. The same is true down here at the bottom. We have the capability of adding custom legal summaries. It creates a table that they can most certainly select from and choose from. To add a new one, you most certainly can do that by selecting Add in this first paragraph. It just kind of takes you to a couple of pages here, the first one being titled. So let's just say, let's call this Test Legal Summary. Then you have 3 choices, again, those same 3 choices that we've seen before, where you can add a document, freeform the text for the legal summary, or add a website URL to a website. Now, because legal summaries have legal implications, we do recommend that you work with legal counsel, maybe an attorney, to word this the way it needs to be worded. And sometimes when you consult with them, they will ask you to add additional information around the legal summary. We call that a wrapper. If you need a wrapper for this legal summary, just select the plus to the left of Add Wrapper, and you can add that additional language. But as you can see, it's been added. You can dictate the order. Brokers can add it to the library, and everybody can edit and delete it. So if I have a couple of these selected, and maybe I even have, let's just select all these for fun. I'll just save this. So we've got 5 legal summaries, which is probably never going to happen, but I've got a point, I promise. Notice up here at the top, there's a link in this paragraph labeled here. If selected, you can dictate the order, regardless of whether it's coming from the library or the custom area. So you can just use these up and down arrow keys to, move these around however you want to. Once you're done, select Save or Next, and you're moving on. But let's say you changed your mind. You don't want the custom order. Notice that there is also a link in the last paragraph labeled here. If you select that, it not only removes that custom order and resets it back to the way it was, it also takes the user back out. And you can, make whatever decision you need to make. So that's legal summaries. Moving on to, I talked about the order. So now moving on to frequently asked questions. Now this is the first part of benefit configuration that is pulling from that plan type. If you recall in the beginning when we added a benefit plan, I mentioned that how important it is to identify the appropriate benefit plan type because it dictates things like frequently asked questions, which is what we see here. So all these questions are pertaining to PPO because that's the plan type that was selected. Now notice we have a new library, eBooks. eBooks Benergy actually maintains a library as well. And you would certainly just pick and choose what questions and answers that you want included. If you're not sure, just click on it. Read through. Make sure that that's the question and answer you want to add to this particular portal. If you like the question and answer, but it says something in here that you don't like, or maybe you need to add some additional information, don't forget that copy-paste functionality. Just highlight everything and copy it. Come down here, select the add link, paste it in here. Move the question, of course, up to the question area. You might want to make sure you do that. Paste it in there. And then you can add your, your custom, whatever it is that you need to change. Select Save, and you've got a custom question. The brokers can add it to the library. Everyone can edit and delete. You can dictate the order. Here's the broker library. So there's content in here. There's our library. And again, this is where you can dictate the order. So all this functionality is the same. None of it's hard, but it can be somewhat time-consuming, which is why we allow you to add the entire benefit plan and certain pieces of the benefit plan into a library just to make it a little bit more efficient from one plan year to the next. So, of course, you can dictate the order, and there's your reset button here. So none of it's hard. Let me know if you have any questions. Plan tips, again, is pulling from the PPO plan type. It only has information from our library. And, again, if you're not sure, just click on the link, read through that, and see if you want to add it to the portal. So you're just picking and choosing. The next thing is supporting information. Now, this I get asked a lot in training. Maybe a broker, or excuse me, a carrier has given all kinds of information about their plan. They even have brochures and, different documents to inform the employees of certain things. This is the perfect catch-all spot for all that additional documentation that carriers may provide you. Again, you can dictate the order of how all of them appear. You can add it into the library and select items from the library, and you can add all the information here, just like we've already shown you. Here's the dictating of the order. Here's where brokers can add it to the library. So all this is the same. So this is supporting information. Plan tours. Now, I promised I would show you these, and I am definitely going to do that. These work a little differently because we currently offer these in 2 languages, English and Spanish. So the first one is English, and the second one is Spanish. So you're basically just selecting which ones you want to include. And instead of showing what the plan tours look like from the control center side, I'm actually going to show you what they look like from the portal side. So let's just select View Plan Tours. It may have timed out, and of course it did. So let me just quickly log back in. Here's the plan tour. So because there's 2 selected here, that's why I only see 2 here. So let's just pick one. I'm going to take my phone off mute. So it kind of has a little video, a little tour. There's the name of the plan, there's the plan year, there's the name of the organization. So it customizes and fills this information in. And it basically talks to them so they can start the tour.
Your PPO plan covers a wide range of healthcare services.
All right, I'm going to mute that. So you kind of get the gist. So someone is talking to them, they have a visual, they have an audio, and initially it just kind of goes through how PPO plans work, talking about in-network and the providers and all that kind of thing. But in the minute, it's going to go over the details. So here we go. Here's the plan details. Now, all these details are pulling from the information you configured for them in the control center. So all these eligibility rules, all of these contribution dollar amounts, they're all being pulled from here. 0, 60, 55, 85. There you go. 0, 60, 55, 85. Those are all filling in. So this video is a total customization of, number one, how basic PPO plans work in case they've never participated in one before, but it also has all of the specifics for their particular plan, for this organization. It's an invaluable tool. I would highly encourage you to utilize those. Let me know if you have any questions. I'm just going to open up chat just in case I haven't missed any. Okay. All right, so we've covered plan tours. Now let's keep moving to contacts. Again, dictate the order. You can pull a contact from our library, broker library, or add your own. Forms the same way. Now, if you have an online enrollment solution, you may not have a lot of forms here, but you might, particularly maybe for a spending account. You could have a reimbursement form here. But again, it works the same. Dictate the order, pull from the library, add custom forms. Links works the same way. You dictate the order, pull from the eBix library, broker library, add custom. And then here's the last piece, the highlights page. Now, this is one of the tools that gets disabled if you override one of the 3 templates. This must be enabled, so if you want it to show here, go back through here. So if you want it to show here, then you have to enable it. So the highlight is right here. And if you want to add some additional introductions or verbiage, you most certainly can use the editor and add the information using the tools. It just displays right here with the HTML coding. It's not where you make your changes. Once you're done, you're done. Brokers can add the entire plan to the library. Everyone, site managers and brokers, can add additional medical plans. If you select this plus right here, it just takes you back out and lets you go through that exact same process I just showed you for additional medical plans. So you just keep adding until all of them have been added. Once you're done with medical, this next button here just takes you to the dental. You set up all your dental plans, and then it goes to the vision, and it just keeps moving through all of these until all of the benefit plans have been configured. Any questions at all regarding benefits, how you configure them, tips for adding them, anything at all? I'm going to open up chat and give you an opportunity to ask questions. And while you're thinking of yours, of course, I have a couple of my own. The first question is, how can I configure benefits for just my full-time employees? Or I can reword the question as to, how can I configure benefits for just a particular user group? Can it be done, and where do I go to do that? Have I lost you guys? We need to do some jumping jacks, stretch, maybe get some caffeine. I know you guys know the answer. All right, so if you're in a plan, I don't see anybody volunteering. Yeah, exactly, you can. It's under benefits, you're correct. So you go into the plan, the benefit plan, and you come to the Take Me To, and you go to eligibility. And that's where you can identify the user groups. So yes, benefit plans can be configured for particular groups of people. Second question and last question is, what is one reason that benefits are not showing up on the output or the portal? So let's say you've come into the control center, you've added all your plans, and you open it up for open enrollment, and an employee's like, I don't see any benefit plans. Why? There's several reasons why that could be, but besides it not being configured in the control center, what's another reason? Where can you look to see why that's not showing up? I'll give you a hint. It has something to do with dates. Yeah, that's exactly correct. That is one reason, is the effective date. So if I come back out here to the plan home page, you recall that there was 4 dates here. 9 times out of 10, if an employee cannot see a benefit plan, it has something to do with one of these dates. So this is the first place I would go if it's not appearing. Plan effective date was one of the answers, and that could most certainly be true. It's sometime in the future, maybe someone got really eager and created a benefit plan for way in the future. But the main 2 dates are these display dates, because this could be completely accurate, but if these display dates are incorrect, an employee won't see it. So for example, if open enrollment started August the 15th and you have September the 5th, well, when the employee goes out there to start open enrollment on August the 15th, this plan's not going to show up there because the plan start date is configured to be September 5th. Does that make sense? So the first clue, I would come to this plan homepage if an employee is telling you that they can't see a benefit plan. It's likely to be a date. It most certainly could be a user group issue. It could be other things, but what we see a lot of times is incorrect dates. All right. Well, thank you. All right, let's go to a little further to the right and go to the human resource piece. The main one that we're going to cover here is the links. Sorry, my brain just went blank. Most of these we're covering in the booster training, but there is one option here that does touch on benefits, so we're going to cover that. So human resource can be all kinds of documents and information about human resources and policies and sexual harassment policies and things that you want to communicate. But this last one, links, can be multiple things. It can be additional links that are not pertaining to benefits that you want to offer your employees. But there is a benefit piece. It's actually a PACA requirement, and that is the Uniform Glossary. It's a 4-page document that actually is federal government created it. It's not coming from the carrier, although I'm sure they could provide it for you. But it became a requirement in third quarter of last year that employers have to offer this glossary. It's a 4-page document that gives them some basic benefit terms. And this, by default, is enabled as long as you guys, this portal was created before or after the requirement. If it was created before, you might want to make sure this is selected. This assign button really does not pertain. By default is all, and you really should leave it as all because it is a requirement for all employees of the organization to have access to this document. And what this looks like to the employee out here is they will go to links, so they'll go to human resources. I'll just click on the whole center so you can see it. So it's broken out in all these sections, right? The very last one is links, and so here it is. The first link, glossary of health coverage and medical forms. If they select it, it will open up that 4-page document. So again, this is from the government, and it just has basic information like allowed amount, co-payment, deductible, so they can really understand. All American workers can have basic understanding of how their benefits work. So they can read a benefit document and coverage to kind of understand what they're really looking at. Any questions about that PACA requirement? Okay, I don't see any, so I'm going to move to modules and tools. Can't go back up. All right, so now that we've covered HR, the one item here, we're going to move to modules and tools. And we're going to cover the options that pertain to benefits. There's a couple of them here. The first one is life events. We all know that there are events in an employee's life that can impact their benefits outside of open enrollment. And so at this point, what you're doing is you're determining what life events the employee can elect. So there's some from our library, broker library, and there's some custom capabilities, and you just pick and choose. And if you're not sure, click on one, and you can read through it and make sure that that's what you want to include. And that's really it. Are there any questions about the life events? Now, the only question I have here is can you edit a life event from a library? And it's a little bit of a tricky question because, you know, you can't click on this and make any changes to this document. But you can, you know, highlight and copy certain pieces of information to add your own custom if it's something that you don't want all the information to be included, but you want some. You most certainly can do that. All right, I don't see additional information, so let's go back to modules and tools, and this time let's go to HIPAA, Notice and Privacy Practices. Now, all organizations since 1996, 17 years ago, are required to provide privacy practices to employees. Again, you don't have to use the portal, which you have that option here, but what better way, an easy way to communicate the privacy practices to employees, but to include it on the portal. If it is included, of course, this radio button here will be selected, and you can view it, what it is, both from the control center. So here is the document. Notice there's some bogus data here. Employees can see it also. So if you go back to the Benefits Center and go into a medical plan, you will see that under each type of benefit, you will see this link labeled Notice of Privacy Practices. If the employee clicks on it, they'll see the same document, and there's that bogus data. But let's say that this document needs to be edited. Maybe the attorney said there's some language in there that needs to be removed. So you most certainly can do that. Even though it's already kind of published out to the portal for the employees to see, you can still make those changes. So notice there's a triangle to the left of Edit. If selected, you can edit, which is the default because one already exists. So the radio button here, now if you're adding a brand new one, so it's a brand new portal, you can select Add, select the link labeled Add Edit, and you can either select the document or freeform the information or paste. But we're going to edit the existing one, so we're going to select the Edit link, and it's a two-step process. You most certainly can edit any of this information. The first section is general information, so the plan sponsor, the effective date. You can override that if you need to. HIPAA privacy officer, the only field that is required is the officer's name, but you can complete the additional information if you need to. But we also give the capability of adding this officer as a contact. And if you'd like to do that, you certainly can. I just happen to select that I don't want to. And then the last step is really where you make the change. And again, this is just displaying what it is. It includes the HTML coding, but to make those changes, you would select the button, the editor button, and you can just remove. So here's this data, bogus data, I just want to delete it. So I'll just make my changes and select Save. Once I'm done, I select Next, and that's been edited. It's quite simple. Now again, if you're adding a brand new one, you most certainly will need to identify the plans, and maybe that's part of your change. Maybe you want to remove some of these old plans like 2011. So you can select different ones. You can do it by a benefit program if you want to. You can do it by the category if you want to. So you can just pick and choose whatever for all these different categories. But once you make those selections, select Next, and your change has been saved in the Control Center. But it does not update the portal until you regenerate it. So it kind of refreshes that information. So the portal pulls the new edited version of the privacy practice, privacy practice notice. So to do that regeneration, just select the icon to the left of Generate. It just says it's going to generate shortly. You select OK, and it gives you a little message saying it's generating. This only takes a minute or two, but for sake of time, let's just keep moving. So I'll go back up to Modules and Tools and select. We're going to skip the enrollment campaign. We actually have separate trainings now on enrollment campaigns. We offer them live during third and fourth quarters, but if you have an open enrollment outside of that time period, we have the recorded session. Real value statements and upgrade, so it's not covered in today's training, but we will cover web to print. Now this booklet has many, many purposes. Brokers, if you are adding the benefits as a service to your client, you most certainly can do that and create a booklet for them. So they can at one place view this document online or print it out so they can make sure that everything that they intended to be added was actually added. It's kind of like a proofreading, if you will. You can also generate separate web-to-print booklets for each user group. So you can even offer them on the portal so they can review them, email them to their spouse, that kind of thing. So you can see that once they're added, it kind of creates a table. At any point in time, they can be viewed, edited, deleted, regenerated, and view a soft copy or print a hard copy. But to add one is quite simple, so let's do that. Let's select the link in this first paragraph labeled Create, and let's just create one. And I'm going to create a booklet for the entire benefits setup. Benefits booklet. Defaults to today's date, but you most certainly can override that to, let's just do the beginning of the plan year. You identify the user group, so if this is a broker offering this as a way for their client to review it, you would want to leave it as all. If you want to create a separate booklet for each user group, just select which one you're creating this for and possibly add it to the description. I'm going to leave it at the default of all. Next is the cover page. So you have three options. I happen to like the default, and I'll show you why in a minute. But if you have a graphic designer or you outsource this, you most certainly can add a custom, really pretty cover page if you'd like to. And just notice this link, insert/replace, and you can, select Browse, pull that document through, and you can add that custom cover page for this booklet. And you can override it. This I don't recommend. It's not very pretty. And we like pretty. Now, you most certainly can override the default and not have a customized page. You can just select the radio button here to the left of Override, select the Add Edit link, and just select Editor and copy-paste, freeform the information here. But again, it's not as nice, so I'm not going to do that. I'm going to take it back to the default. Introduction, you have the capability of adding introductions to this booklet. So again, in this case, where it's a broker adding all the benefit information for their client, the broker might want to give them instructions. You most certainly can do that. If you are the client or the broker and you want to offer this booklet to each individual user group, you can remind them of open enrollment dates. You can highlight changes. You can just give paragraphs of information about the plans, maybe even highlight a carrier change, something like that. Whatever information you want here, you most certainly can add, and with the editing capabilities. And then it displays down here with the HTML, and that's the introduction. And then the last piece, or last section, is to identify the plans and the content. You most certainly can select the checkbox to the left of Include All and just simply highlight them all. Or you can do it by category, benefit program, or plan. So you have some flexibility where you can pick and choose. And then the very last is the content. Default is all, but you can override that and pick and choose which ones you want to include. Once you've identified everything, select Save, and it adds it. So there's the new one. This is the new one we did. But notice there's an icon missing. The View Print is not there. And that's because you first have to generate it. So you've identified what you want included in this web-to-print booklet, but now you have to give the Control Center an opportunity to go extract and pull all that information. To do that, we call this to be generated. So you would select this icon to the left of generating, gives you a little message, even scares you by saying it could take 30 minutes, but in all the years I've been here, it's not taken anywhere near 30 minutes. It's usually a minute or two. But again, depending on your organization, you could have 50 user groups and lots of medical plans and dental plans, and so this document could be quite huge. So it could take a while, but I've never seen it take 30 minutes. But anyway, we're going to come back again and readdress this, give this an opportunity to generate, but let's go back to Modules and Tools and take a look at HIPAA. That should be generated, and it is. There's today's date and time. So now if we look at the privacy notice, that test bogus data is now missing. So we just walked through how to edit an existing HIPAA privacy notice. It was quite easy. All right, under Modules and Tools, while we're waiting for that to generate, Benergy Helpline is an upgrade, so it's not covered today. But the Cost and Care, this is a nice benefit piece as well. So I'm going to click on this. I sometimes don't cover this in today's training, but it looks like we have the time, so I'm going to. This is pertaining to benefits, so I like to touch on this. This now is included within Benergy. Used to be an additional cost, but now it's included. And it's the basic version. So again, if your portal was created after this enhancement was made, then it will be defaulted as turned on. So you want to make sure this checkbox to the left of Cost and Care Guide Basic is selected. If your portal was created before this enhancement, it might be set to none. So just double check that. But let me tell you what this does and what value it adds to the employees. They go to the portal, and they can access in one of two ways. One way is the Health and Wellness section. They click on the Health and Wellness section. It will be here on the left-hand side, Cost and Care Guide. If selected, it takes you here. But employees can also access it immediately upon entering the portal. Back on the home page, if you recall, there's a section called I'm Here To, and there's a link, Search Prices and Compare Providers. If selected, it takes you to the same place. And what this does for the employee is that they can search for something. So let's say that the employee has not met their deductible, and their child has broken their arm, and their doctor recommends an MRI. They can search, use this right here as like a search engine and type MRI. They can actually even add their zip code, so it gives them prices in that area. So they can add their zip code, select Submit, and it stores it here. So all services they search on will give the prices, the fair market value price in this zip code. And they can select Search Prices. They can also find services here. So they can use this horizontal menu bar, or they can use the search engine, whatever they like. And they can select Search Prices, and it will give them all the different MRIs they can choose from. So let's find one with no contrast. And right here, it will say the physician services are roughly $556 for this particular MRI. Kind of gives you the details of what makes up that price, and it talks about the fair price information here. And the value, of course, of this is because in today's day and age, there's so many medical benefit plans that have really high deductibles. So up until the time the employee meets that deductible, they have to pay out of pocket the contracted rate. So what this gives them and empowers the employee to do is to kind of shop around. So the doctor asks for an MRI to be done. Well, prices are probably very, very different if the MRI is done at a hospital versus an imaging center or a doctor's office. So it gives them an idea, roughly, that this should cost me about $556 in this zip code. So that's what this does over here. It just gives you, enables the tool. If you want this tool for your employees for this organization, just make sure this is selected. And that's it. That's all the modules and tools. Let's circle back around to the web to print to see if that's been generated. And look at there. Didn't take 30 minutes, did it? All right, so now that we have a little icon, so you can see this is the one that was generated today because that's today's date. So all we have to do is select this little icon here to take a look at it. And I told you the cover page was nice. So if an organization has a corporate logo, it will display here. Here's the name of the booklet. They even have the images for the benefits sections and the date, of course. And then what my favorite part is this right here. It kind of serves as a table of contents. So if you're looking for something in particular, you can just, click all the different areas. It's just not scrolled up. So you can go directly to a particular area. And so this is something that can be emailed to a client. They can take a look to make sure the broker, added all the information. But even in my training company, it's 103 pages long. So it's definitely something that you want to be careful about if you decide to send it to the good old printer, especially if it's a shared printer. So that's the web to print booklet. It's kind of a nice value added either for brokers' purposes or even for different user groups and offering their benefits for a particular user group. Any questions about any of these tools that we just covered? And I don't see any questions. You guys are being quiet. I know we're toward the end of training. Okay, well, I've got a couple of questions. I'll just ask a couple of these. Can the HIPAA notice of privacy practices be customized to the company's text? And, of course, the answer to that is yes. I'll just answer a few of these. Can we use our own HIPAA notice? Absolutely, you can. Can I create separate web-to-print booklets per user group? I show that you actually can do that. And you can even create separate web-to-print booklets for different health insurances, for different carriers, or different benefit programs. So you have a lot of capabilities. All right, I don't see any additional questions, so we're going to finish up. The last but not least option here on this horizontal menu bar is Admin. And under Admin, you can see I have only one option, which is View Portal. And notice there's a couple of sections here. But the main thing I want to point out to you is until your portal has been launched, none of these unique logins for user groups, for site managers, for employees, not even the URL for the employee to access the portal will be activated. That gets done when you launch the portal. So before then, you can view the portal through the eyes of any of your user groups by identifying which one you want to look at. So this is great for testing, to verify information as well. So let's say we want to look at the portal through the eyes of a full-time employee as of today's date. Now, if I future dated a lot of benefits, you might want to change this date, but we'll leave it as today's date, and select View. And it will show you the portal through the eyes of a full-time employee. So you can check the benefits, you can check policies, you can make sure that there's nothing on this site that full-time employees should not see. It's kind of a way that you can double-check your configuration. All right, since my training organization's portal has been launched, I'm going to jump out, go back to home, and I'm going to select a company whose portal has not been launched. And Edit, go to Admin, and look at, I've got two options. I've got View Portal, which is what I've just showed you, and then I've got Ready to Launch. When you're ready, select it. You'll see this little screen here. The first paragraph just reminds you that when the portal's launched, it will trigger billing. And it also gives you instructions if you're not quite ready for whatever reason, how to get out of this page. But if you are ready to launch the portal, there is a link at the bottom left labeled Launch Portal. When you're ready, click it. and instantaneously it launches the portal. It not only triggers billing, but it activates all the unique logins for all your user groups, your site managers, your employees, and it activates the URL for the employees to access. At that time, you would just communicate to your employees what that URL is and share with them their login information, and they will have access to a portal just packed full of information that will help them be more informed of their benefits, but also to inform them of policies and giving them all kinds of decision-making tools. And that's it. That's how you build and launch a portal from beginning to end. If there's any additional questions, I will stay on the call for a few more minutes, but let's go back to our PowerPoint. Let's make sure we hit everything we intended to cover. First thing is, did we log into Benergy Central both as a broker and a site manager? And absolutely, we accomplished this. We first logged in as a site manager, then broker, and we talked about the differences. The next one is identify and understand the contents of the resource section. Both brokers and site managers have access to this information, and we went over the information that is contained in this section. So it looks like we accomplished that as well. We located and understand the purpose of the library. So we call it library management, creator library, and we talked about the purpose, and we showed you how it plays into the benefits. Construct and customize a client portal within the Control Center. So this is where we spent the bulk of our training, right? This is where we actually added a portal and went through all the different areas that must be configured before a portal is launched. So it looks like we covered that as well. And then I walked you just now through how to launch a portal. So again, it looks like we accomplished everything we set out to accomplish. I will stay on for a few more minutes. If you have any additional questions, I'll be more than happy to answer them. For everybody else, thank you so much for your time. We really do value your business, and we are here to help you. And if you need any additional assistance, just know the client services team is here to make this experience as seamless as possible. So again, thank you so much for your time. Have a great day and a great weekend. Bye-bye.